On Monday, Kim Yo Jong, sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, delivered a blunt message. North Korea has no interest in dialogue with South Korea. Her statement, broadcast by state media, was a clear rejection of any diplomatic engagement, regardless of Seoul's proposals. This was North Korea's first official response to South Korea's new government, setting a tone of hostility from the outset. Kim Yo Jong emphasized that South Korea remains the enemy, making it clear that Pyongyang's stance is now official doctrine. She declared, "There can be no change in our state's understanding of the enemy," signaling a permanent shift in policy. The message was aimed not just at Seoul, but at the international community, especially the United States. By dismissing talk so forcefully, North Korea is seizing control of the narrative and signaling a new era of confrontation. Pyongyang's focus has shifted away from reconciliation, instead aligning itself with other global powers. The era of even pretending to seek inter-Korean reconciliation appears to be over. Kim Yo Jong's rejection came as South Korea was still reeling from months of political upheaval. The new liberal government, led by President Lee, took office after the downfall of former leader Yoon Suk-yeol, whose martial law declaration left the nation in crisis. President Lee quickly suspended propaganda broadcasts and halted anti-Pyongyang leaflets, signaling a desire to reduce tensions. These gestures were intended as olive branches, marking a clear break from the previous administration's hardline stance. However, Pyongyang dismissed these efforts as superficial, viewing the new government as a continuation of the old. North Korea's response made it clear, leadership changes in Seoul do not alter the fundamental conflict. The South's political turmoil was simply dismissed as an internal affair of the enemy. North Korea's hardline stance is now enshrined in its constitution. In early 2024, Kim Jong-un removed the goal of peaceful reunification from the constitution, replacing it with a declaration that South Korea is the invariable principal enemy. This legal change marked a historic break from decades of official propaganda about one Korea. The destruction of inter-Korean roads and rail links soon followed, symbolizing the new reality. By making hostility constitutional, Pyongyang has made any return to dialogue nearly impossible without another constitutional overhaul. This is not a negotiating tactic, but a long-term strategic realignment. North Korea's entire legal and ideological framework now treats the South as a permanent foe. The shift signals an end to the old cycle of provocations and negotiations. The peninsula is now defined by two hostile states locked in existential conflict. At the core of North Korea's rejection is deep distrust of the U.S.-South Korea alliance. Kim Yo Jong specifically cited Seoul's blind trust in Washington as the main obstacle to improved relations. As long as South Korea remains a U.S. ally and hosts American troops, Pyongyang sees dialogue as pointless. North Korea views joint military exercises as direct threats, and the reaffirmation of the U.S. alliance by President Lee only reinforced this perception. Pyongyang believes Seoul's foreign policy is dictated by Washington, rendering any goodwill gestures meaningless. For North Korea, the U.S. military presence is the non-negotiable barrier to peace. South Korea, meanwhile, cannot abandon its security alliance, which has been its defense bedrock for decades. This fundamental clash locks both sides in a perpetual stalemate. Even with a pro-engagement government in Seoul, the path to dialogue is blocked by unyielding geopolitical realities. Kim Yo Jong's statement made this impasse explicit, dashing hopes for change. North Korea's hardened stance comes as it deepens its military partnership with Russia. Pyongyang has sent troops to support Moscow's war in Ukraine and plans to increase its involvement, transforming itself into an active player in global conflict. This alliance with Russia provides North Korea with security and international standing, reducing any incentive for engagement with Seoul or Washington. In Seoul, officials responded to Kim Yo Jong's statement with disappointment, but pledged to continue seeking reconciliation. The message, while firm, lacked the overt hostility of past statements, suggesting Pyongyang is watching the new administration closely. Still, the wall of mistrust remains high. With North Korea constitutionally defining the South as its enemy and aligning with Russia, prospects for peace look remote. South Korea's strategy of patient engagement faces a North that has declared it has no interest in being engaged. The two Koreas are now drifting further apart, divided not just by a border, but by irreconcilable worldviews.